Jade Arendelle, Lioness Crowned. By the way, if you guys, Jade, would you like to come in? I can bring you into this live if you want to come in, or if anybody else wants to come in, and we can do an experiment. I was thinking about this. I did a short video today about Will and Jada, and I know it's a little risky because it almost seems gossipy to talk about it, but I thought it was just so interesting in terms of what's going on with people's reactions and stuff like that. And I have some thoughts on it, but actually, I see Chris is asking to come into the video, so I'm gonna see if I can bring him in. All right, Chris. So let's see. Hey, Chris, can you hear me? Let's see if we can get him in here. I hit the little button. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on, Doc?
Not much, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, friend. Hey, I just wanted to say, man, I respect you so much, man, and like so much that you're doing for the community. Man, I really appreciate it. I did have
Thank you.
one thing though that I want to talk about, and it's more about the community of people like yourself that are on platforms and are woke. Well, not just say woke, but conscious of the Black community and want to play with that community. Me particularly, I like it when I see someone amongst yourselves in your group when you say positive things about our Black community. But when I see something that pokes fun at like someone else, or because you may disagree or whatever, I sometimes get confused, like what's the point, or what is the intent behind saying, like I take Umar for Dr. Umar, for instance. I don't agree with everything Umar says, things like that. But when he's right, he's right. When he's wrong. But if I just see it shows like division sometimes, and I was just like, like do you see that as well, or do you agree? Like how's that like work for you?
Man, that's an excellent point you make. The best I can say on that is, we ain't perfect.
Right.
That's what it is. We human like everybody else, and me and Umar have about a 6-year history. From the time we met in Boston around 2014, and the energy shifted over time. There was a time where I was like,
I'm live with Dr. Boyce Walker.
Is that your hey? Is that your girl?
No, it's co-workers. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So to use that as an example,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really talk about Umar much, and I don't bring him up much. But if people ask me a direct question, I'll give a direct answer. And sometimes the answer ain't, I'd like to say I'm as noble as some people would like for me to be, but no, I'm imperfect like everybody else. I just, maybe I know a few things that can be helpful. I'm an advisor. I'm not so much just in that role of a leader. You know what I mean? I'm an advisor. So if there's stuff that I do that people don't vibe with, then I say just ignore that shit. You know what I mean? Like you really got to do you, because I can't even pretend like I know for sure that everything I say is always the right way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But you at work, man. I ain't trying to get you fired, brother.
No, you good. We good. It's slow right here. I just vibe. I just seen you on. I always jump on when you on or whatever. I ain't never thought you was gonna answer my call, so I'm shocked like that you picked up on that.
I was just sitting here and I just realized, like, you know what? I can actually bring people in because I was thinking about this stuff. Earlier today, I felt compelled to talk about like that red table talk, Will and Jada and all that.
Right.
And so I said, you know what? I want to hear what other people think. Because everybody was talking about it. I'm not gonna pretend like I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot there, in terms of just talking about people's relationships and how all of us function, and just the double standards. Like I feel like if Jada was a man, then she would be a R. Kelly. Like if you look at her situation is identical to R. Kelly. You in your 40s, you got with somebody in their early 20s.
Right.
You have more power than them. And people can say you're an abuser, you're controlling, you're this, and this. And I personally believe grown ass people make their own decisions.
Right.
But I just really would wonder if she was a man. I don't think they would look at it the way they're looking at it. I think the fact that she's a woman allows her to talk about, I was healing and I was wounded and I was
Just the word. It's the word. So me being a Philadelphian. Yeah, I mean, like I look at it a little differently because that's my boy Will, and I'm like, man.
I love Will. I don't know.
Look like she got.
But I know people that know Will, and I love Will Smith. I know Will's brother real well, Harry, and I love that family, man. So it's not even any shade at all toward it. But go ahead, bro.
My point, what I took from it was she used choice words to convey like it wasn't what it actually was. Like, to me, it's like when you and your girl break up or whatever, we say that we're going to separate and we break up. Now, I don't necessarily intend for you to actually follow through and do the things that you can do when we broke it up. She actually did it. So that's what, you know what I mean? Like, that was the thing. I don't think Will in any mind when, and they used the word, what was it when she said permission? I think he meant blessing more when they was talking about it. It wasn't necessarily permission, he meant blessing. But when Will was like, we're going to take our time, we're going to break apart or whatever, I don't think in the back of his head he actually thought that she would actually follow through and get into a relationship. So when he, it hurt him, like, so that was my thing. She used words to say like, oh no, this was serious and we did this and we did that. But I don't think Will's perception of how their relationship was, the direness that she tried to put it in, I don't think he thought of it in that way. And, she ran with it, she ran with it.
Oof, well, it takes two to tango. Men do their dirt, women do their dirt too. I believe men are like dogs. Dogs are messy, so whereas women are like cats. Cats usually cover up their shit. And basically, I think that's what's different about this is that she's the cat that didn't cover up her shit, whereas I'm gonna just tell you, women can get into real. Women get horny too. How about that? That's what it is. You know what I mean? Like, we act like it's only a one-sided thing. It's not. But hey, man, let me let you go. I'm bringing some.
All right, my friend.
Else here, but man, it was great talking to Chris. Right?
True.
Chris out of Philly. Right?
Yep.
Okay, it's nice to meet you, brother.
All right, my friend. You have a good one, man. Hey, that black business school, man. I'm all on it, man.
My man. All right, brother. Well, God bless you, man. Nice talking to you, brother.
All right. Peace.
Jade, are you still there, Jade? I want to bring you. I want to hear what Jade has to say. Yeah, I think that when you talk about all of this, let's just be clear. I would bet every nickel in my pocket that there's been some women, in Will Smith's life that were not named Jada, right? Hey, Jade, I'm about to bring you in, okay? So, Jade, I'm going to try to hit the button and bring you in. I'm bringing Jada Arendelle. But, it's kind of like, I think that the bigger challenge is not
hey,
so much, hey!
How are you?
Fine. Good to see you.
Likewise. I was like about to take a nap, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to come in and chop it up with Dr. Boyce about this. So
yeah. Go ahead.
I've been really busy this week. My organization, we're celebrating our 41st anniversary year, National Black United Front. And this is our annual convention and the first time ever that we had not convened ever in person due to COVID, right? So everything's like all digital. So I'm preparing to interview some activists about the uprisings 2020 that are happening around the country. So it's going to be really, really dope at about 8 p.m. Eastern time. I did not get a chance to look at the Red Table Talk. I'm really not interested when it comes into other people's relationships, especially like married people. But the fact that it's causing a stir online, I was actually texting Taryn about it today and chopping it up with some other women, the other queens in Flight and Being Queen. Y'all should subscribe to flightandbeingqueen.com also, y'all. But either way, there was a few things that I thought about. The first thing is a friend of mine posted, her name is Zakia Sankara Jabbar. Shout out to my sister. She said, if it was Will instead of Jada misusing a much younger woman, Will would be canceled by now. Absolutely. I believe that there is a double standard, especially when it comes on to celebrities, women and men, what women can kind of get away with and what men cannot get away with. In the context of the Black community, let's be clear, Black men and Black women are not on an equal playing field when it comes to the jury or the, being judged by your peers or the general public. So I do believe that, like, if this, I don't know how it was, August Wilson was like 19 years old or something like that. And then people says that, there could be some evidence of mental illness or instability, then I think what I'm hearing is that, like, people are likening our sister Jada Pinkett to being a predator in some sorts. Now, there's some people who are excusing and saying, well, he was grown and everybody was grown, but was that the same approach that was taken to the women who accused R. Kelly or of misconduct or rape or, emotional abuse, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have the answer to all of those questions, but I do notice that there is a bit of a double standard, and that bothers me. The other thing that bothers me is that we have so many things going on in the world right now. We're still in an anti-Black war. We got Black men and Black women being lynched, literally hanging from trees in 2020. We have Black children who are going missing. We have missing Black girls in the community. So many other issues. The economy will never be the same again. Our children probably won't have public schools or anywhere to really go to in the very, very near future because of COVID-19 and the spikes. This is like what people are focusing on in the midst of, excuse my language, audience, a shitstorm that we find ourselves in as Black people. And so I think that like there has to come a point to where we can have our opinions and we can kind of speculate on other people's like business, but if we're not handling our own business in the Black community, in our homes or whatever, then it's just a waste of time. It's not constructive. At the end of the day, unless, I mean, you can find a lesson in anything, right? This is, I think, having intelligent conversations and really thinking through or having these sorts of dialogues, you know, can have value. But I think that, like, if this is all what people are, like, focusing on, like, with the amount of attention that it's getting, I think that could be a bit of a distraction. I want to know what you think about that point, Doc.
No, I think you make excellent points. You know, I think that to the point about August and how old he was and stuff like that, you know, I'm more old school. I kind of believe when you're grown, you make your choices. You know, I not to say that an older person can't manipulate a younger person. They absolutely can. You know, but I can't imagine. You know, when I was 20 years old, if I decide I want to sleep with somebody who happens to be older than me, coming back and saying, well, she tricked me into it, or she, you know, it just I never went along with that narrative to begin with. You know, I think that. August, you know, maybe he feels victimized, maybe he doesn't. I don't think anybody even asked him about that. Maybe he's obviously got, you know, the big mistake I think Jada made was just strategic in terms of like when you choose who you sleep with and you're in a position of importance and power and significance, you got to understand that person now has a story they can tell about you. You know, I have this conversation all the time with guys that like to go run around with just different women and all that. I'm like, you don't even know that woman. That woman now has been alone with you, and she could go out and tell whatever story she wants to tell, and millions of people are going to believe it just because she said it and because you're a Black man. So I think the same thing is true when it comes to Jada and August. I think, here's what I think. I would be willing to bet you that they have a really complex relationship and all kinds of shit has happened, but most of that shit is not public shit. I think if it's all legit, then August just broke a rule. August, you know, did a kiss and tell. But the thing is, you know, August is young and immature, and he's a little bit crazy. That's the only reason. That was the only thing I knew about this dude. I don't know how great of a singer he is. I heard him sing once. He's good. But I remember my first thought when I heard his name, I said, that dude's crazy. Because I remember he punched somebody in I think he punched one of his own fans or something ridiculous. Damn. It was something stupid. I forgot what it was. But I was like, why would you be even, you know, you got this empire you built. You got to protect your empire. You got your family. You got your wealth. You have your reputation. You know, if you're going to go do your dirt, do it with somebody that's also got something to lose so that y'all can say, you know what, I got a secret, you got a secret, and we're going to keep each other's secrets because neither one of us want this to happen, right? But if you're dealing with somebody that's got nothing to lose, and then they're going to come back and, you know, they're like, well, I'm trying to have a come up. I'm trying to promote an album. Oh, I got a story about Jada Pinkett Smith, and I'm going to go and rise up at her expense. And I think that's, to me, that's some old punk shit, by the way. I think real men don't do that dumb shit. But then also, I think that it was her fault strategically to like, I don't, you know, whatever you do is what you do, but that really should have been a personal thing anyway. Now, I think in terms of the community talking about it, I personally think that conversations about family are okay to have in this environment, in the sense that when you're talking about elevating the community, we can't do that until we figure out what's going on with our families, right? The biggest problems with our family, because the communities are nothing more than a collection of families. Right. And our families are all fucked up, I think, largely because, you know, when we get married, we can't stay married. You know, we have all kinds of stuff going on with kids and baby mama-itis, baby daddy-itis, and child support systems and all that. So I thought it was interesting in terms of just talking about something Will said that was really quick. He said something about, like how he said, it's nice to know you can make a mistake and not lose your whole family because of it. And because I see that all the time. Somebody cheats, next thing you know, everything you have is burned to the ground because you had some fantasy and illusion that most people that are together 20, 30 years never have infidelity. And that's not true. From what I've seen, it happens a lot. and people just move forward, you know. So I think there's something to be learned, even though we might make fun of, say, for example, a Camille Cosby, who had a husband that was doing way too much, right? Way too much. But she just said, this is my family. I'm sticking with them. Or Jesse Jackson's wife. They asked Jesse Jackson's wife, they said, are you going to, you know, you caught him cheating. He had the baby with the other woman. Are you going to divorce him? And she said, I'm going to say this one time. There will be one Mrs. Jackson, and that's it. And she just said, this is my family. We're going to deal with this. But it ain't none of your damn business, right? And I'm not saying that that's what you should all do, but I'm saying that women like that remind us that you always have a choice. You know, so like, for example, when I chose to marry Alicia, I told Alicia straight up, I said, the reason I never made the commitment is because I believe I know what commitment means. Commitment means that I've committed to do this, that without knowing what the cost of that commitment is going to be. You know, so that means if you leave, I'm going with you, period. Like I'm in this, period. You know, and I think that Will and Jada, if you're gonna find something honorable about what they did and what they said, it's the fact that however weird their circus relationship might be, they're committed to each other.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful
thing. I think that's kind of cool.
That is a beautiful thing. Now, one of the things that I always have these like, I guess you could say, coming to Jesus moments, proverbial coming to Jesus moments, or, you know, moments of humility. So I was scrolling through IG today, and I saw our brother Ben X of the nation he's a member of the Nation of Islam, and he posted something which was, I can show it to you really quickly. It's a picture of Will and Jada, you know, with Minister Farrakhan, and then there's a short video clip from the minister. I want to play it really quickly. Hold on for a second. Let me refresh this so we can get it from the beginning. It's a good message in it though, Doc.
When you see men fall, don't laugh. Learn. Because you're on your way up. And the things that tempt people to fall, you and I are not free from that temptation, nor from the weakness that will cause us to stumble and fall. When you laugh at somebody else's fall, white or black, rich or poor, your enemy or your friend, you're laughing and opening a way for your own demise when you do that. Because to laugh and not learn, to make mockery and not to understand, is to make the same mistake yourself.
Right? So I thought that was awesome, because I was like, I did not see the Red Table Talk. I heard about this story, and then I started looking at the memes, and I was laughing at these memes though. Like, have y'all seen, Doc, you've seen the Jada and Will memes, right? And I was just like, wow, like cracking up and kind of enjoying them. And, you know, like in a guilty pleasure type way, you know, I'm trying to decompress from, you know, all of this revolutionary stuff. So it's easy, again, to find a distraction. But when I saw this post from my brother Ben X, and I listened to what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, it was a reality check. It's like, yes, it's like we can look at the mistakes of other people and learn a lesson. So I think that ties into perfectly about the lesson about Black family and then being committed to each other. That's what I want to hold on to within this discourse. I want to shout out our brother Ben X for helping me to raise the consciousness and the conversation, you know, around this whole thing. And I'm grateful for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and this message, because it's like for me a message to, like, we can keep focused, kind of. We can talk about these things, but do it in a very, very constructive manner. What are we going to, what implications will this have for our futures as Black people, and especially for the Black family and the commitment between the Black woman and the Black man? And where have we fallen short or weakened some of our standards or created double standards when it comes on to how Black men are viewed and treated in terms of accountability, and Black women are? And I would say that is not an even playing field right now. And I think that as a Black woman, that's something I really do want to bring light to, because I see a lot of toxic femininity coming out of some of these conversations, especially like on Black Twitter, especially, you know, on these social media streets, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe I'll talk a little bit about this in Fly Nubian Queens, you know, in the Lioness Den next week. Y'all can find me on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at flynubianqueentv.com at 12 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm gonna tell you, Jade, I think it's okay to talk about it, because I think it's okay to talk about the things that people are thinking about. You know, the three things that tend to drive your life they tend to be health, wealth, and relationships. Those tend to be the three things people think about the most. Think about it. If you see your friend that you haven't seen for 4 or 5 years, what are you gonna talk about? The first thing they're gonna tell you is, oh yeah, I started dating a new, dating a new guy or new girl, whatever. I'm about to get married next one, right? Relationships. Wealth, if they got a new job, they're like, oh yeah, so what are you doing? You still working at that place? No, I got a new job or I finally graduated, right? So that's wealth, right? And then health, like if they are sick or had a surgery, they're gonna be, yeah, I had to get my kidney removed. Well, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna, so to me, I think the relationship piece is really important because the need to be loved and accepted is one of the most important, most fundamental needs that a human being has after things like food, water, and security. And so I think it's okay to kind of talk about it, but you're right. I think rather than talking about Will and Jada, like I don't feel bad for them at all because they know what comes with the territory. They know that if you choose to be public individually or as a couple, it's going to come with some darts being thrown at you, stuff like that. Like Alicia and I go through that sometimes where I told her, I'm like, hey, I can post our proposal video because I'd like for people to see how much I love you. And it's an honor to the Black woman. And I think a lot of people might be inspired by it, but just know you're going to get some haters. You're going to get some people that, and so you know what it comes with. And I think Will and Jada to a much greater extent. So I don't feel bad for them. But I think that the conversation is most productive when it's not just about them, right? Ultimately, the conversation is about you in terms of just thinking about all the different ways you might want to approach your relationships. Because what I found is that in every relationship, sure, you can bring in your personal politics and your view of the world. But at the end of the day, every relationship is a negotiation between you and the person that you're in the relationship with. The relationship is this really deep, powerful space where only you and one other person understand that space fully. No, you think about this. Think about how you think about a relationship where it's like heavy, right? You've gone through some heavy shit, but literally there's only one other person on earth who can understand a percentage, even a significant percentage of what you went through in that experience. Your friends and your family don't get it because they were only there 1% of the time. You were there 99% of the time in this little world that was created between the two of you. And in that world, you make your own rules. So I believe Will and Jada made their own rules, and I encourage other people to do that. And don't get caught up in the bullshit. Like, don't let other people tell you how your relationship's supposed to be and what it's supposed to look like. Because the quickest way to mess up your relationship, I believe, is when you start letting people that don't understand your space and your rules and your wants and your needs telling you what should and should not be acceptable. No, you make that decision and you stick with that. And that's your family. You do it the way you're going to do it. That's the only way it's going to survive.
Agreed. And I like something you said earlier in your short video that I did catch on YouTube. You were saying that if you and Dr. Alicia have an issue, the only table or red table y'all gonna be sitting at is that kitchen table, right? Like that's between y'all. And that really resonated with me. Also as a married woman, but then also when I look at it like from an African-centered perspective, because I am a Pan-Africanist, we do respect the counsel of other folks, especially who've been in the game for a long time in terms of marriage and like elders and stuff. So you have you can defer to people who know you all, or that you can get counsel from, but it's not necessarily a whole public conversation or fiasco, and everyone actually does not get to comment or have an opinion about your personal family business. And I pray that's something that we can take away from this as well. When we start to think about this conversation. But personally, I'm going to try to really monitor my intake of like some of the petty jokes and memes, because I mean, it's kind of like creative and interesting and funny that like they are. I think it kind of does something. It like lowers the vibration for me to really stay focused and really focus on the message and the learning or the teaching out of the whole situation. But yeah, I'm not telling nobody else what to do. I'm just saying I just have to monitor, my intake of some of these things, because it could be real distracting.
Yeah, I didn't like the whole. I kind of cringed when it all happened. I cringed when Jada was like, "I'm gonna bring this to the red table." I get it, right? Maybe you say, "Okay, this is a teachable moment," or maybe you say, "This is the point where I'm going to expose some vulnerability." But I don't think the good outweighs the bad. Now you and your man are working through what sounds like a pretty serious relationship issue, and all of Black Twitter, is commenting on it. Like, oh, hell no. I'm not gonna have a bunch of ignorant ass people that don't know me talking about my relationship. You don't know nothing about me. You don't know nothing about my wife and my family. No, screw you. Like that's the part that kind of, I couldn't understand it, you know, because they have plenty of money, they have plenty of fame. I mean, do you need the ratings that bad, or what was I would that so that's what I think. I think I would like to have heard a sincere explanation for why they were doing this in public. Because but to your point, the only time I think you should take a conversation like that outside of the two of you is if you're bringing in a therapist, or, as you mentioned, a counselor, an elder, or somebody with some wisdom to help you resolve your dispute so you can have a better relationship. Black Twitter ain't it.
It's not. It's not. And you know what?
They will mess your shit all the way up.
Right. And when you're in a relationship with someone, especially in marriage, you are responsible for your partner's well-being, like mental, emotional well-being, right? So, I mean, I just saw, the images or clips that I did see, like I said, I didn't see the whole thing. I saw a traumatized, grown Black man who I could tell, I'm talking about Will Smith, who would want to do any and everything to keep his family together and to keep it intact or whatever. It seems like he's a writer for her. But in the long term, I'm a bit concerned about what the damage of this public, display of getting, putting their business out on Front Street or at the red table, what is that going to do to him, their children? I mean, what's the legacy of this? What's going to be the outcome? And, I can only pray for them. And I hope that they can get through it and resolve it. But I just do think that, it's our responsibility to make sure that we're not putting our significant others or family members into compromising situations where they're going to see these comments. These comments are going to live online forever. This digital content is going to live, after we're dead and gone. And I don't know, we have some responsibility in that. We have accountability to each other and to our family units if we're really talking about building up a Black nation.
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of processed this stuff a little bit, and I think two big clarity points that I had about this is one, I have grown kids, and I know that if my child brings home a friend, and if I was to be attracted to that friend and make a move on that friend, I would feel like there's something wrong with that. You know what I mean? I would feel like that was some creepy shit. I shouldn't be doing it. It wouldn't even matter if she was 30 or whatever, fully grown. But no, that's your child's friend. And I think that's the part where I was like, ooh, ouch. And then I think the other part about, discussing it in public, I still don't understand that. And, but I think overall, I hope that whatever they were trying to get out of it, that they got that. Because maybe people can benefit from the teachable aspects of just understanding that marriage can be messy. And I think that's one thing I think that was really interesting too, is I'm glad they kind of shattered this illusion people had that they have this perfect little marriage, because it's probably 100 times messier than even we still know, right? And I think that's good though, because I sat here and I watched my parents stay married 45 years, and people get excited about the fantasy of it all. And I'm like, you know what? If you're hanging on to a fantasy and you really think you're trying to be married 45, 50 years, you ain't really about that life. You don't really understand. It's like when I ran a marathon, people got, they thought, they just think like you visual, like running a marathon and the horrors of it, the grueling agony of it, how it breaks you down is very different from the fantasy of it, where you're just, prancing along and going full speed for 26 miles. No, it's the reality of it is very different from what you think it's going to be like. And I think marriage is the same way. Marriage is a fucking marathon, unlike anything you've ever seen. And in order for you to really last as long as they have lasted, you got to be ready to not just deal with the shit, like whatever all your deal breakers are, just be ready to drop about half of them if you're really truly ready to really stick it out that long. That's why most people don't make it, and if you ask them, most of them when they first got started were like, oh no, we're never going to get a divorce. It's going to last forever. Well, no, then reality kicks you in your ass and you're like, whoa, so I just encourage anybody, I think that there's something to be said about loyalty and commitment, and I think also if you really want to know what it takes to really be married as long as Will and Jada have been, go find a married couple that's been married that long and get them to really tell you the honest, real stories about what happens in a marriage. It ain't like dating. The dating scene is completely different.
I agree. I mean, I had the privilege of knowing all of my biological grandparents, right? And they were married for like forever. And then my parents were married my entire life, like before I was born, and they would still be married today. if my dad didn't pass away, at a relatively young age, well, at a young age. But either way, there's a fantasy, and then people have ideas of what those things should look like and would be like, and a lot of times they just don't know how much work it actually entails. One thing that I was thinking about, a comment that you made when you that you made when we first started this conversation, is something that you just kind of said, is about the friend thing, right? Like you would never see it as permissible or appropriate to start dating or be interested in someone who is your child's age, or like one of their peers or friends, right? I think that's completely inappropriate. And I know that society, for certain, I'm 1,000% sure that if a black man was in Jada Pinkett's situation, it will be a completely different conversation. Ooh. However, we'll connect that back to what you were saying earlier when we first started the conversation, which was like, maybe when you were younger, and if an older woman wanted to holler and you decided to get into that relationship, then you also, saw yourself as an adult, there was consent there. So yes, there's consent and being an adult, but the way other people would see that, if the gender roles were reversed, as in like in this situation, it would be completely different. Like if it was Will Smith, he would be canceled. If it was any other black man that did anything remotely similar to hollering at a younger, much, much younger person who was like one of your child's peers, and he came out or she came out and claimed to be taken advantage of, or, alleged that there was an affair or an entanglement, then, you be canceled. Yep. And I think that we really get to look at that and look at like the willingness and like sometimes the natural reflex that society and those within Black society have when it comes to not giving Black men the benefit of the doubt ever.
Well, I think to your point that we don't acknowledge the personal power of women to make their own sexual choices. I've just always been a person that says, look, if she's 25 and she wants that 40-year-old man, I'm not going to look at that as some sort of like situation where he manipulated her like she's some sort of child. No, she's a grown ass woman who made a decision. And so after it's done, you can't sort of change the rules of love after it's over because you're mad and somehow rewrite the script as, oh, I was manipulated, I was this, I was that. No, you made a decision. And so I think, while some people are smarter than others, I don't believe men are smarter than women. Some people are more persuasive than others. I don't believe men are more persuasive than women. I believe it can go either way. So, I think that what the Jada situation shows is it highlights the hypocrisy to the point where, I look at it as, August chose to be with her. She chose to be with August. It wasn't something that I'm used to. It's not something that I would agree with or do myself. But that was, that was what they did. She didn't molest him or rape him. He wasn't a 12-year-old, So, so ultimately, I just kind of wish we would sort of stop trying to make these scenarios like, and I think I'm probably a little bit sensitive about it as a man who, who's been in spaces, where I've been approached by women. And I'm like, wow, if people knew the truth and they saw how assertive a woman can be when she really wants something from you, they wouldn't buy into this bullshit fairy tale about, women being these little lambs that men are victimizing and taking advantage of. It's in fact, sometimes wearing the veil of victimization is a predatory behavior in itself. Right? Like I'm going to be the predator. I'm the wolf, but when everybody comes around, I'm going to put on the sheep's clothing and make everybody think that you were preying on me. In fact, that's another way that I'm going to actually prey on you is by threatening you, by saying that if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to go and become the victim. Right? Mm-hmm. And all that shit that's wrong. It's wrong.
Interestingly, I think though, Doc, I hear what you're saying. I agree. I also do think that it's like, I believe that there can be situations where an older man, and I'm not saying that you're not saying this, an older man can definitely manipulate a younger woman who may not be savvy, who could be a bit naive and play on her emotions and emotionally abuse a younger woman. And I also equally believe that an older woman can prey on the mental development or behavioral, whatever, emotional issues of a younger man as well, and actually, commit abuse as well. So in that sense, if men, and I've actually seen this happen, if older men can actually manipulate and take advantage of younger women, I know for a fact that, you know, older women are doing the same thing to younger men. And just because an older woman is a woman or she's a female doesn't mean that she's absolved of that sort of guilt, if that's actually what the older woman is doing. I mean, we have to be consistent across the board in terms of how we're weighing this, like, morally. So I think that's the biggest point of contention for me, is like this assumption, this automatic assumption is that, like, when, you know, women, or, you know, when women do things that are pretty questionable that men are also doing, that there's a double standard, and they can kind of hide behind gender, and it creates this whole thing, which actually results in the breakdown between healthy boundaries, trust, and truth, and nation building between the Black man and the Black woman, because we're caught up in this whole, like, feminist, leftist, progressive, you know, perspective about what family and gender roles and relationships should be from our open enemies' perspectives and values.
Yeah, you know, that's an interesting point you make, and I you know, I really wonder how much of it is based on age or based on gender, and rather than just being based on strong-minded people versus people that, or better yet, you can either call it strong-minded, or you could call it selfishness, or you know, people that engage in that sort of really aggressive, controlling behavior. And the reason I say that is because I remember, I think it was it Toni Morrison who did Stella Got a Groove Back?
That was Terry McMillan.
Terry McMillan, that's right, that's right. And she got straight played by that younger man, you know, who was just like, I'm just trying to get this lady's money. I don't love her. I don't want nothing, you know. And now here's the funny thing though, right? You know, in that situation, I was kind of like, yeah, but you sat down at the table with him and y'all made a trade. You wanted that young, sexy body, whatever it is you wanted off of him. You know, you're like, I'm here to be, you know, I'm gonna steal the candy out the candy store, and you don't realize that the person who owns the candy store is robbing you too. Right? Like, so relationships ultimately are just a trade. Like, you know, you got something I want, I got something you want. And then when the trade is over, sometimes people walk away feeling victimized. Like, I didn't get what I wanted, or you got more from me than I thought you were going to get, or whatever. And I personally think at the end of the day, maybe it's a matter of, like, at least when I talk to my girls, I try to just school them enough on it, basically saying, look, I don't know what you want. I'm not judging what you want. It's up to you to make that judgment. But, you know, here's how you want to play the game in a way where you're not going to be manipulated or exploited. Or you can identify somebody who is going to be predatory in their behavior, or sneaky, abusive, or, you know, manipulative, right? Like yes. It's just a matter of knowing how to play. So you're right, though. But to your point, too, I think older people have learned the game a little bit better than younger people. And that's why it's not recommended to be dating somebody that's 15, 20 years older than you, because they don't see whatever little trick you think you're going to pull on them. Chances are they saw that 20 years ago.
Facts. I'm laughing because I'm looking in the chat and I recognize some familiar faces. And I saw someone in the chat say that, you know, they're younger woman can also manipulate the hell out of an older man.
Hell
Facts.
yeah.
And stick you for your paper, right? And just like, what's that Tyler Perry movie that came out that everybody was talking about, the wigs? A Fall from Grace.
Yeah,
A Fall from Grace. I don't know if you saw that, where she fell in love with this younger man and he totally stuck her from her paper. So listen, if y'all listening out here, just, you know, be mindful of the people who would try to finesse you. All right, either way, across gender lines and across, you know, ageism.
Yeah, take your time to get to know people. That I learned that a long time ago, that if you take your time and you don't, because I believe that people that are predatory, they can sense what you want and what you need, what you're looking for. If you're lonely and you're looking for love, they pick up on that. If you're horny and you want some good sex, they pick up on that, right? And that's how men get played. A lot of men get played with the sex angle. That's how Cardi B would be drugging dudes and stuff, right? Because these dudes were like so desperate to get sex that they would go and be naked in a hotel room with a woman they don't even know, a woman they've known for an hour, right? And next thing you know, you get played. So I personally think that there's no replacement for just getting to know somebody and respecting the power of intimacy and sex, in the sense that you can do it, whatever you do is what you do, but remember, you know, when you share your body with a person, that's valuable. You're sharing your secrets with a person, that's valuable. You're sharing, they could, you know, because you give that power to the wrong person, they can, you know, do what August is doing. They can ruin your reputation. They can go out and tell a lie on you. They might give you a disease. They might take all your damn money. You know, they might drug you and rape you like Cardi B used to do, or you know, that type of stuff. So I personally think that people shouldn't get caught up in this stupid culture that's out here that's telling people, like, after you do like 2 or 3 dates with a person, you're supposed to go start sleeping with them and all that. No, you take your time, because you link up with you entangle with the wrong person. Next thing you know, you got some serious problems.
Facts. Yes, sir.
Mm.
You're right, Doc. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for bringing me in. I'm going to get ready for this panel. I'm really excited. It's going to be on our National Black United Front page, so I'll make sure I send you the link. And,
yeah, and I'll share it. I'll share you. National
Black United Front. So we're National Black United Front, and our website is nationalblackunitedfront.net. And yesterday, I was appointed to be the vice chair of administration for our national organization. So I'm really excited.
I'm doing a one-handed clap.
Thank you.
Very
all right,
proud of
take
you.
care, Doc. Thanks.
All right. All right. Take care, sister. All right.
Black Howard and be one.
All right. Bye, everybody. See you later.